Okay, welcome to another video. This video is to show some models that depict how a healthy system would look like, what most people actually would look like when it comes to their psyche, their structure, and what people actually see themselves as. And that's kind of, at least from my own experience, these are of course all my own experience, my models, and they don't necessarily depict anything other than what my insights are about certain subjects in life. So I hope they help, and don't take them as absolutes because they're just models. But this model shows, and maybe in previous videos you would have seen, that in a normal system, the spirit, the body and the mind, right? The body, mind, and spirit would be in a healthy system. Spirit, of course, being the fundamental source of everything, and then the mind coming after that as a non-solid structure still, but the body becoming a solid structure. This is ethereal, this is mental or psychic, and this is physical or material, as we call it. Now, in a healthy system, this would be within presence. The ring of presence is the awareness that is all taking place now, that spirit is now, mind is now, and body is now, like now. But most people are not consciously aware that they are actually fully in the now. So, let alone that they're aware of their consciousness, which is, let's say, I'm aware or awareness. For now, I'll throw them on one pile, but consciousness, awareness, I am, whatever you want to call it, the ability to know I'm alive, I'm here now. Then the mind, which is the part that can think of things. For example, I could say to you, a red sports car. And even though you're looking at this screen, looking at me speaking, you could still see a red sports car. Or you could see the face of your mother or your father or your daughter or your son or your dog or your house. You could see them all like flashes. They're not really taking place here in the screen. They're taking place in some kind of psychic space. Of course, science would say they're taking place in the mind or whatever, right? But the point is, it's taking place. They would say the brain. But the point is, you're not seeing a real sports car. It's not appearing here in front of you. It's appearing somewhere in this liminal space, or whatever you want to call it, this kind of mental psychic space, which is non-physical. And then you have the physical, which is the body, right? That's here. We know that. So if you stay really calm, and you are present, and you're knowingly so here in the moment with all these systems, the mind would be natural, and it would maybe bulge a little bit out. It might go into thought and memory and imagination and wanting and desire. It might be bulging a little bit out from its natural, its rested state, so as to speak, which would be within the yellow line. That would be the pure mind. It can go a little bit out towards a little bit of that thought and projection towards the future, but still there will be a staying power, a presence power, the power of knowingly staying here, knowing that everything is still only in this eternal moment, now, here, which is the now that never ends, eternity. However, when it becomes strong, very strong, then what happens is the system bulges. And this is what we had in one of the other models that I think in one of the previous videos. What happens then is that this bulging effect started. Now the mind has taken over. It's become this obsessive thing where it just can't stop thinking about all of these future and past. The mind goes into the past all the time about what is done, what has been done to it. The anger is gone. Not just memory and thought as a functional thing, but it's also going into sorrow and regret and all that. And then it projects in the future. It's not just desire and wanting and imagination, but it now becomes frustration. It goes all the way into anxiety and worry and all those things. So this is what most people on Earth right now have. Even in some of the most remote places on Earth where you would expect them to be still in contact with nature and with themselves and in harmony, in most cases, people would have this overextended mind, which now has surpassed the ring of presence, which means that this part that's sticking out and that part that's sticking out from the presence is the mind overextending itself into future and past. And when the activity goes as far out as this, people really start to become unhappy with themselves and life, because they are now disconnected from spirit, from body, because there's so much in their mind that they're not really aware of the body anymore. They're not really aware of, certainly not of soul, of spirit, of being, of the source consciousness, because that's a very fine well-being, sensating, you could say. The only anchor, the only real material thing to spirit would be well-being or joy or bliss or those kinds of almost untouchable essences. The mind, we can then thinking about all this stuff, which is really not taking place here either. Because you could say, or taking place here, but it's not really taking place. Like you're thinking about something that might happen to you in the future. It's not happening. It might never happen. And what happened in the past, it may have happened, but it's not happening now, so why bring it up, you know? But that's where people mostly live when this system has become an unhealthy system. But technically, nothing has really changed in the sense that that behind it all, this shape here with spirit and body should actually be popped to the back. So that mind is now on the foreground, spirit starts fading away, which is one of the other models in one of the videos that I have prior. So take a look at that one if you to go into that little model there. But the point being, this is not how people see them when they're in this bulging state. Because when people are this far away from their own spirit and even their own body, they experience themselves more like this model here. They kind of see themselves as a mind, with the body being the vehicle of the mind. They think themselves, I'm just a mind, you know. And I have a body, mind, and that's the system here. Like the people see, that's me, I'm here, right? Usually they're not here because they're thinking about the past. But they see themselves as a baby that's grown up and is going towards the future. They see some kind of line in the middle in the clock time that's over here, where the past is where they were born and were raised, and the future is where they're going. And they're right now in this insignificant sliver of now, where everything is about getting to the future. And then there's a lot of reminiscing about the past. And this is where the majority of humans believe in, because we believe in this clock time system, where the mind has left the present moment. The presence is almost gone, right? They're not aware of it. The spirit is now only an idea, like for most people, it's religious ideas about God, about whatever they call that, or spiritual ideas, still mostly in the mind, because the direct experience of being is previously within presence in the moment now. It's not a concept. It's not an intellectual thing to be here now, knowingly that you are spirit. That spirit's not a word. It's not a mental idea. It's not an ideation. It's not a concept. It's not an idea in the mind. It's actually the direct lived experience is what true spirit is, which is what we are when you're consciously now. But this is how people would experience themselves. To them, spirit doesn't really exist. The body is kind of part of this. It's like in the head, you know. It's almost like this is the body, and this would be the head. And the giant thing, that's where everything is taking place. And that's the ego intelligence. I would call it ego intelligence. I don't call it AI. That's why I say don't AI, but EI. But EI is ego intelligence, or you know, ego identity. And then this ego identity is bound by time. You know, it's now become a persona. The mind is, that's why I say the personified mind here. Because the mind becomes so identified with this identity of past, of this child that grew up with these parents, and this happened to me and that happened to me, and this is where I went to school and that's where I studied, and then I worked here and I got married, I got divorced, and all the stories people tell themselves that they are this creature moving through time. That becomes this persona, this whole thing with the narratives, the stories, the identifications, the history, the traumas, you know, all the experiences that define them as a creature in time, as opposed to being the absolute nowness of the universe, going nowhere except here, doing, being, living. And yes, you have memory. And yes, you know there's a kind of a different set of circumstances next moment, the next moment, the next moment. But it's still this moment. There's never anything but this moment. So this would be the EI gone rogue. The EI has now become so personified, so identified with itself as a historical creature through time, and that it just lives in the mind. The body is often neglected, see? And it's not like these systems would be, if you take all of these systems together, right? This would be more of a comprehensive system. I don't know if we see them all here, but this system would be the natural system, and it wouldn't surpass out of its ring of presence. This is a healthy system. This is where it's bulging, but really behind it, this system is still existing or present because it can't be removed. That's actually the reality of things. You're just always now. The universe is now. There's nothing but now. We're not going anywhere. The universe is not moving anywhere into the future. There's only objective changes within eternity. But eternity is not moving anywhere. This is eternity. The moment is eternity. The mind, however, is so convinced of itself being the dominant thing, it surpasses and becomes obsessed with time, thinking that the universe, or let's say reality or eternity, is moving through time. No, nothing is moving through time. The past and the future are only ideas that we have because we look at objective changes to physicality. And then this is how people really perceive themselves, because they forget this structure. And that's where suffering comes from. So the idea is to take your life back, the power back, which is real power, because this is the power, and the power has stepped down into force. This is power, and that's force. So as the power of the pure consciousness of the universe, the quantum field, manifests into lower, denser levels, it is turning into force. And this forceful system, which is the mind, is so dominant in its own ways that it forces itself upon, or even over, you could say, spirit, and upon, even on the body. Although the body is a humble servant to the system, because the body never really really pushes back, because it's such a humble servant. It never gets angry or forces against the mind. It just gets tortured by the mind, and in many cases people become really unhealthy and even kill themselves, suicide. All these things are because this all comes from the trauma and the sorrow and the worry. The mind can kill the body because it's so convinced that it is in charge of everything, that it even is the body, and it has the right to kill the body. Now, a lot of people do have problems to harm their own body, because the body is also has a protective mechanism. But the mind claims the body as itself, or its tool, its vehicle. It forgets completely about spirit, and then it becomes tortured in that system to the point where it's just about me, myself, and I, what the mind would say, right? Me, myself, and I. Boom, it's all this, but it's just because it's a bulging system. So the idea is to get back, and meditation is the way to get back. I call it quantum resting, is where I look back into nothing by being still, not regurgitating the past, not going all the time about these problem things that we think about the future, but dropping this mental activity and making it a healthier system again, and returning, shrinking it, and eventually coming back to a system where even if you just do it in meditation, during the time of meditation, you're coming to this point where you've reduced the mental activity to a handleable, let's say a manageable level, so that the body can rest, the mind can rest, and the spirit can come towards the foreground again, so that you can feel that there is this unity, this oneness, this wholeness, this never formed but always present being behind it all, that's supporting everything, supporting your breathing, supporting all the systems. Like, the body is autonomous in so many ways. We don't control almost anything. Food's being digested, blood is flowing, proteins are being made, enzymes are transforming. It's just incredible. We don't do that. It's not the mind that does it. We already are not really in charge of anything in many ways. The body is autonomous, spirit's autonomous, and for many ways people can't control their mind either, so you could say it's autonomous as well. But to get back to that harmony within the presence, it's sitting down the body, relaxing the body, feeling that you are in the body, breathing, feeling sensation, listening to the sounds that are around in the moment, and not to the thoughts about the future and the past. Then everything comes to rest, and the spirit starts coming to the foreground, and you start having insights and realization and intimations of a deeper source of being that is holding us. That's why so many people, when they finally have an encounter, sometimes by force, with spirit, they will end up just becoming religious. They will just go to church and say, man, I became a believer because at some point, at some reason, sometimes because of suffering or something that happened, often because of something heavy, then they just let go, and they couldn't keep their mind as this constant belaggering, or what do you call it, this just torturing entity that would just keep mauling over everything, past, future. What do I do with my life? What am I do with this? Choice, choice, choice. What do I do? When they finally come to this point where they just dropped it all for a moment, and the mind really came to complete stillness, then suddenly, boom, they feel this, like they've been held by God, you know, or whatever their religious name might be, or words that might use for that presence, which is same in all of them, in that sense. All the same, whether you call it God or Allah or anything, they would just finally say, oh, I was held by Jesus, or I was held by God, and I was taken up, you know. That's what it is. It's spirit. But the only way to do it is to get the mind to stop incessantly think about past and future and rest in the state of being within the presence, which means you're resting in the now that never ends, where body, mind, and spirit are here and now. That's a healthy system. A peaceful, quiet, loving, kind, maybe some thoughts, maybe some memory, maybe some desire, maybe some wanting, but generally a resting system, so that harmony can be returned to what I call a healthy system. So stillness is still the way. And go to some of the meditation videos to go into that. I'll make some more anyway. I haven't made that many. But I hope you enjoyed that video. Hope it helps, and see you next time.